Alright, don't mind me, just sacrificing a few things to Naga in hopes that I can get fewer outside noises. I mean, can you really call it an ambush if we saw it coming? I mean, sure they jumped out at us, but like, we knew from miles away that they were coming. This, in fact, went exactly as we all planned. Alright, so, how is everyone? I mean, it probably isn't. Actually, fun fact, anything that somebody picks up in a how's everyone scene is always worth 0 gold. Every time. It kinda sucks because I never really use most of those items. Except Klein's bow. I will actually be giving that to Ryan at some point. And 15 experience, which is good for him, because A, he didn't need to steal any experience for it, and B, he kinda has a little bit of difficulty getting experience in the first place, being a promoted unit and all. Aw, this is actually similar to a conversation in Awakening that I liked. Rickon was doing the same thing, and that's why I liked his character when I had only talked to him with the Avatar in that game. And then his whole shtick with everyone else is about him trying to prove his maturity. But Ryan wouldn't do that, right? You wouldn't do that to me, right, Ryan? You wouldn't just suddenly pull being obnoxious to other characters and only being good around me? I hope. Aw, this is really nice. And again, I'm glad we're not marrying him. I am fine with the support only going to, hey, yeah, you can be my sister now. It's nice. And for that, we actually get a bond item. Wah, wah. Ooh, look who's so cool being able to draw a map in his mind. I mean, like, to be fair, somebody could have piped up back in the prologue. Yeah, Rhodey, I mean, like, you know, it's good to ask for help, that's a good lesson, but like, you know, someone could have said something. It just occurred to me that we might actually not be able to see the bonds I get because I only do single screen, and they might actually show up on the other screen, so whoops, might have given myself post-production work. And if I did, sorry future me, my bad. I mean, like, we tried to ask Aaron, but he wouldn't help, so some tough guy around here has to help, right? Hurt me more, Ogma! More! More! Make me feel alive again! I mean, that's dumb, but like, sure, yeah, let's fight Ogma. Yeah, it's called scan. You have somebody else do that for you. And while you're fighting, they'll get all the enemy's information for you. Yeah, it's just that easy. I don't think we have an operator, though. Or navigator. I don't fucking know the terms. Ah, the Marth and Santa conversation. Of course, these two have a conversation together, and, well, for the most part, I actually like their conversations. Maybe not this support. This one's, a little less than good. I mean, alright, it's alright so far. It's just, you know, they're having a nice chat. Probably haven't been able to do that with everything being so hectic, what with the war and all. And it's this part. I really hate this trope. Oh, you know, I'm really worried about you, and I don't want to see you hurt, so, just never do anything around me ever. I know you've been doing a great job fighting so far, but, you know, archers exist, and, you know, I'm worried about you, so, you know, leave. Yeah, I would say Marth. Like I said, the rest of that support's actually pretty good. I do kind of like how it plays out, but the first one is just, it's one of those conversations. And again, especially for Seda, she's already survived a war. She's good. Alright, so, this chapter's very compact, we've got a lot of units, and we can actually be finished with this one pretty quickly. However, there is actually one snag. This is Caesar, and this is Rad. We've recruited them in Shadow Dragon, and they're recruitable here. However, they're enemy units, and they're not going to actually budge within the chapter itself. Oh, that being said though, I really do love this conversation, because they're on opposite sides of the battlefield. Caesar, are you fine with this? What? I mean, like, we're kind of selling our souls, you know? I know we have a noble reason to get this gold, but like, I don't know, you think we're doing the wrong thing here? Rad, this is the worst time for a crisis of the soul. Just get stabbing and ignore what your heart tells you. And Marth's just standing in the middle like, oh, for God's sake. Caesar and Rad will not be convinced to join until the end of the chapter. Now, according to the usual site I use for like the maps and whatnots, while there aren't any new enemies here on Lunatic, apparently, Caesar and Rad won't actually move on casual mode, which I find a little weird. I would have thought it would be like, on normal mode they wouldn't move, and, you know, on hard mode they would, but to be fair, I'm playing normal, and they do move. So yeah, it's just really weird that for once casual actually makes like an active difference outside of just whether or not units perma-die. But I can't really recall any situation in the game in which that happens again, or anything like it, rather. So anyway, as for the chapter itself, you can complete this within 2 turns, or possibly even 1, apparently. It usually takes 2 for me. If you want to do it in 1 or 2 turns, you are going to want to take care of Roro as soon as possible, so some long-range units might not be a bad idea. The other important thing is to make sure you take advantage of all the choke points, because if you don't, enemies can attack you fairly easily. Right here, I want to make sure board doesn't do any extra damage. I mean, there aren't any knights around, but the hammer's still pretty powerful. So basically, take out the archers so they can't go after any Pegasus knights you might have, and then basically unequip your weapons in front of the axe fighters. At least one of the axe fighters will end up targeting, like, whoever took out the knights, which in this case is Board, and it'll probably be Caesar and Rad who go after the unequipped characters, which is why you do want to remove your equipment. That's a good idea, because while they do have decent enough stats in which they might be able to stand up to something, at the same time, you don't want to risk it, you know? I mean, it's a short chapter, but god, the strategy you have to pull off is so, I want to say specific, but like, there are multiple ways you can do this. It's just, you need to plug up as many holes as possible in your strategy, and honestly, the biggest hole here, and the reason that Caesar kind of has free access to more units, is pretty much the fact that I started with Board, and I used the hammer, meaning I needed Julian to change out Board's weapon for him, and as such, I kinda had to leave the left side a little open. That being said, though, I am free to kill Roro, and he's only using a hand axe, so it's not too bad, except also Iris didn't crit, which doesn't help, but whatever. At this point, provided we're just able to kill Roro, we're good to go, and it's damn near impossible for us to not be able to, because I'm pretty sure even if Seda didn't finish him off, Board would have actually, I think he has a hand axe, so he would have been able to handle it. Roro doesn't seem to be too bent out of shape about dying, though. Oh well, whatever. If he wants to be happy about being stabbed to death, who am I to stop him? Alright, well, let's finish off the axe fighter with that dude. So we can finish off this dude with Julian. Like I just said, you can finish the chapter at any point, but, I mean, I'm not gonna pass up free experience, you know? We can actually remove all the other enemies other than Caesar and Rad. Also, I shouldn't need to say this, but don't bother with a healer in this chapter. Honestly, for most of the guidance chapters, it's a bad idea to take a healer because you're so limited on units, but like, here especially, you need to be on the offensive and then immediately switch to a defensive, and you only barely have enough characters to do that. You really shouldn't be using up a healer. But, yep. This dude will probably get a hit in, yep, but that's not really a big deal, because he's dead now, and Marth has a clear path to the end. It's only Caesar and Rad left over, so we're going to be able to get them. Very nice. I mean, I guess I did kill off the rest of their troops, but like, whatever. Nobody cares about the generic units they come with. They're just extra characters, whatever. It's only people with faces that matter. Oh, and in the previous version of this playthrough, I did actually show off the Caesar and Rad recruiting if, like, one of them's been killed. I believe I showed that within this chapter. I'm actually going to show that off in the Victoria version of the playthrough. I mean, I'm still going to recruit them overall, but, you know, I can just show off what happens if one or both of them is dead at the end. It actually gets a little bit heavy if one of them's dead, which is surprising because, as per usual, it's not like they have that much personality, it's just kinda sad. Here, though, it's just like, hey, you should join us. Yeah, but we're mercenaries and we want money, and, like, you don't have money? And then the Avatar just comes in and is like, yeah, but, like, you'll probably be killed if you go back to Arcania, and, like, we do have cash for you later. You just have to, you know, help us win. And that's why Caesar and Rad don't exist in the original Mystery of the Emblem. Also, if you hadn't noticed, yeah, the guidance chapters are basically a way for you to recruit the characters from Shadow Dragon that didn't make it in the original Mystery of the Emblem. And also, hi, why are you still alive? So, fun fact, NOA actually translated Roro's name as Legion, which, if you've been wondering why that's been the case up until now, Roro's got a lot more Roro left in him. Or out of him, as the case may be. So, Caesar is actually a lot better in this game than he was in Shadow Dragon, however, he does have the same major issue he did in that game. He is not Ogma. Just like in Shadow Dragon, there's really not that much of a point in using Caesar as opposed to Ogma, because all his stats are inferior, with the exception of speed. Caesar's speed is actually better, by 5%. If I remember correctly, if you use him to class change, Caesar's actually not that bad, but if you're gonna keep everyone in the same class, Caesar is pretty much only useful as a replacement for Ogma. Though that being said, unlike Rickard to Julian, at the very least he'd still function really well. Those growth rates of his aren't half bad. We also have Rad, who is one of the two characters I mentioned that's better than Sampto, and one of the reasons is the fact that, as a Myrmidon, he's actually a little bit unusual. With a skill of 45%, it's kinda hard to tell how badly he's going to lag behind, just that he is going to lag behind more skill-based characters. That being said though, having such a high strength as 50% for a Myrmidon is really unusual. That 50 luck ain't half bad either, and his HP's good to boot, so honestly, you're looking at a character who can deal some pretty good damage and isn't half bad. He definitely isn't a tank or anything, but he does have at least enough HP to survive a few shots. While Rad's not really a character I jump to use, at the same time, It's really nice to see a character who's different, rather than just straight up inferior to a character you've gotten beforehand. Though, that being said, Iris is also a little unusual for a Myrmidon, but like, she doesn't quite have the same hit to skill percentage as Rad does, and well, I mean, she does have the best availability in the game, so, whoops, sorry about that, Rad. I kinda made you obsolete long before I actually complimented you for being unique. Sorry.